How come some people today say that following the madhab is like something new? You know, they say people from the never used to do that.
There are different questions that people have about following the madhab, but this question by itself is new for me.
Yeah, from
So this question is bid'ah. The question is, some people say that following a madhab is something new, and therefore we should not follow it. Wallahu alam, how they are saying it, why they would say something like this. There are other objections, of course, that may be more stronger, little stronger at least, than this one, because this one is such a question that a person who just studies the biographies of any of these scholars of Islam or have studied the seerah, the history of Islam, would never say something like this. Because when you study the books of muhaddiseen, about muhaddiseen, the life history of muhaddiseen, they are called the books of Asma'ul Rijal. And the books of Asma'ul Rijal, there are 4 types of books. 4 types of books only. They are called Tabaqat al-Hanabla, Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyya, Tabaqat al-Malikiyya, and Tabaqat al-Ahnaf. Which means these are when they write, if you want to find a biography of Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, you want to know something about Imam Bukhari, where would you look for it? We will pick up the books about Asma'ul Rijal. Many of these books are divided according to the madhab of the person. So first thing, you have to know which Imam he followed before you can find out where to find about him. And you want to know about Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, you will have to open the books that talk about the fuqaha of the Shafi'iyya, and it will give you the biography of Imam Bukhari rahimahullah. You want to know the details about Imam Abu Dawud rahimahullah, you will have to go and pick up the book that are written about the fuqaha of the Hanabla, followers of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah, and his biography will be stated in there. Pick up any book of hadith. To make it easier, pick up any book of hadith. They have chain of narrators. Go through the chain of narrators. Just take one. Take as many as you want. Take that chain of narrator and start looking at the biographies of these narrators of the hadith. Each of them in his biography will be stated that which mazhab he followed. Then, how can we say that following a mazhab is something new? Great muhaddiseen. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. What a type of muhaddis. A person who never got married for the sake of knowledge. He never got married throughout his life. If you read his biography, he's a follower of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, and he's a muhaddis. He's a follower of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he's a follower of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. As I said, Imam Abu Dawud rahimahullah is a follower of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah. Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah rahimahullah, the person that I mentioned about him earlier, he wrote 40,000 ahadith with his own hand. He's a follower of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Abdullah ibn Mubarak, Amir al-Mu'mineen fil hadith, he's a follower of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. So how can we say that it's something new? Basically, throughout the history, always you find that people always followed some of the Imams. Yes, at the time of Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in, they used to follow different Sahaba in different towns. For example, the people of Kufa used to follow Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu because he was the greatest faqih over there. The people of Medina, they used to follow Zayd bin Thabit radiyallahu anhu. The people of Makkah used to follow Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu. And the people of Yemen used to follow Mu'az bin Jabal radiyallahu anhu. And this is how in different towns they had different fuqaha of the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in that people would follow. After the time of these Sahaba, there is a very interesting hadith narrated in Sahih al-Bukhari that some people from Medina, they went to Makkah. They had a question about tawaf for women during her period. They went and asked Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu. He gave them the ruling that they knew that it was against the ruling that was issued by Zayd bin Thabit radiyallahu anhu. These are the people of Medina. So they said to Abdullah ibn Abbas, this is in Bukhari, we are not going to take your opinion over the opinion of Zayd bin Thabit. This is what he told us, so we are going to follow his opinion. Abdullah ibn Abbas never said anything to them. All he said, when you go back, he's not forcing them. When you go back after finishing all of these rituals of the Hajj and Umrah, when you go back, go and ask Salama radiallahu anha. She has some more information about it. Then when you get it from her, go and tell Zayd bin Sabit and tell him my opinion. If he changes his opinion, then you follow him in the new opinion. So this is how they used to follow. That's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent Mu'az bin Jabal radiallahu anhu to Yemen. And he told him that he will be doing ijtihad over there. So if Mu'az bin Jabal is doing the ijtihad, what the rest of the people are doing there? They're following Mu'az bin Jabal radiallahu anhu in his ijtihad. Because not everyone is mujtahid. This was at the time of Sahaba. It continued at the time of Tabi'een. They used to have one mufti in every town mostly. Ata ibn Abi Rubah. He became the mufti of Makkah Mukarramah. In fact, when all the people will be together, it was known that Ata ibn Abi Rubah will be the grand mufti. And especially regarding the issues of Hajj. Anyway, so that was during the time of Tabi'een. Then after that, as fiqh was getting compiled, then gradually people started, because now they did not have those many mujtahideen in every town. So they started following one of these fuqaha. Initially there were more than 4. It wasn't only 4. Initially there were more than 4. There were many more. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah was a great faqih. And his rulings issued, and that some of them that we find, issues mentioned by him, they were so deep and they were so great that you hope that you can have more from him. But subhanallah, it was Allah's will that rest of them did not have students who would save their knowledge. It was Allah's will. And these were the 4 that their knowledge was all documented and saved and practiced. And then gradually people started practicing it. Muhaddiseen, fuqaha, mufassirin, mujaddideen, they all started following one of these 4. And finally, these 4 were only left. And the rest of them, all we learned from them is few opinions that we heard about them. Of course, in their time, they must have a lot more. But now, since it was not documented, it was not written, so we don't have anything too much about, information about what they have said in all different rules of the Sharia.
Let's say a scholar of today says something that Abu Hanifa ruled is wrong. And like some people say, oh, you should follow the scholar of today, Or we should follow what...
Today some scholar tells us that Imam Abu Hanifa made a mistake in this ruling. What should we do? Waqi' bin al-Jarrah, who we know was a great muhaddis, as I said, he was a type of muhaddis. He's a teacher of Yahya ibn Ma'in. He's the teacher of Imam Shafi'i. He's the same person about him. Imam Shafi'i says that I went and complained to him that my memory is getting weak. At a time, he's complaining about his memory being weak at a time when he used to look at the page of the Quran, he would just memorize it by seeing it. But he goes to his teacher and he complains that my memory is getting weak. And who was that teacher? It was this Waqi' bin al-Jarrah. The teacher of Yahya ibn Ma'in. Yahya ibn Ma'in is the final source in Asma'ul Rijal. If he says about any of the people that is narrating a hadith that this person is not reliable, hadith gets rejected. Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah is his teacher. Someone in the gathering of Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah once said about a ruling that they were discussing, أخطأ Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa said this and he made a mistake. Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah got upset. And he says to this man, don't you know how this fiqh was compiled? Then he says to him, a person who had those great mujtahideen like Imam Abu Yusuf, like Imam Muhammad, like Imam Zufar around him, who are having that deep sense of ijtihad, when he had people like Yahya ibn Zakaria ibn Abi Za'idah and some others great muhaddiseen who were huffazul hadith, and he had people like Ma'an who was known to be the best in knowing the Arabic language, and when he had people like Abdullah ibn Mubarak who was the master of Hifz al-Hadith, in memorizing the Hadith, in knowing the tafsir and the history. And when he had people like Fulayl ibn Iyad in the gathering of Imam Abu Hanifa, how can they accept that mistake if that was a mistake when he wrote that, when they documented it? He said there are 40 mujtahideen sitting around him, and when he makes a mistake right away they correct him, and you are telling me that he made a mistake here just because of your opinion?